They've got to get tougher. They got to get like Marjorie Taylor Greene. You happen to be here. Would you like to run for the Senate? And I will fight like hell for you.
It seems like would she have any struggle getting the Republican nomination in Georgia?
Well, former President Trump has said that he would, quote, fight like hell for Marjorie Taylor Greene if she runs for Senate.
If she wants it.
She would have his support. And I guess, look, I know a lot of folks are wringing their hands trying to figure out what to do to make sense of the election. I'll just get right to it since you raised Marjorie Taylor Greene. America, if you believe that Marjorie Taylor Greene should never be a United States Senator, it's electjon.com, electjon.com. Marjorie Taylor Greene in the U.S. Senate would be a disaster for the country.
The governor there, Brian Kemp, will not run for the United States Senate, and your name, Congresswoman, has been talked about as a possibility. Are you the one best suited to take on Jon Ossoff, the current senator of the Democrat?
Well, first, we all in Georgia thank Governor Kemp. He's been a great governor, and he's still our governor. And we wish him well in any future endeavor that he and his family decides to pursue. And I'm very grateful for the support I have in Georgia. The polling shows I can win the governor's primary, or I can win the Senate primary.
So what are you going to do?
I can also continue to represent my district.
So what are you going to do
if you? That's a choice that I can make, and I'll give it some thought.
So apparently Marjorie Taylor Greene is actually considering running for the open Senate seat in Georgia, but according to Axios, nobody, including Donald Trump himself, really believes that she could win.
GOP senators are apparently already doing everything they can to urge Marjorie Greene to see reason for the first time in her life. And please don't run for Senate because you're gonna ruin our chance of holding on to it. So they're trying. I don't think she's gonna listen. And I love her boldness, okay? She sees herself in the Senate. She thinks she's cut out for it. That's utter madness. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect in practice, but I like that she's brave and she's not backing down in the face of statements like these from Senator Kevin Cramer, who says, we need to have the absolute best candidate, and that includes electability. It's very difficult to apply a formula for a very gerrymandered, very conservative congressional district like hers into a statewide election with as much diversity as Georgia has. Great point. Easy to win her district. That's why she did. Harder to win Georgia at large. He adds, that is a swing state that's pretty independent minded. If I was to put my political science hat on and look at all the criteria, she wouldn't be high on all my list of recruits. Look, dude, as a former political scientist, I don't think you have to put the hat on. I think you just have to look at the polling to know that she's not a good choice. But anyway, he had previously criticized her back in 2021 when she was just coming up for endorsing some of the crazier theories floating around in conservative circles, such as claims that 9/11 was an inside job, or that the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas high school attack was a false flag. That's literally a thing that she endorsed. He also flagged her for her Jewish space lasers thing, which I don't want to trigger her by talking about it, but she knows what she posted on Facebook. In any event, it's not just Cramer. Senator Tom Tillis says, I think she'd be a solid primary contender, but the state's a lot like North Carolina. It could be a challenge at the statewide level, which is, I think, downplaying the concern he might be feeling, but he's being diplomatic for once, that's good. Senator John Cornyn of Texas, former two-time chair of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, chuckled when asked about her running for Senate, saying, I'm sorry that Brian Kemp's not running. Damn, that's cold. Asked whom he could see who he'd like to see as a candidate in the race. He said, I want one that can win. I don't know whether she qualifies or not. Yes, you do. You do know. That's why you already left. You don't get to chuckle and then pretend that you're not sure, that you're agnostic or whatever. We know what you think. And I want to remind everyone, she does win easily re-election because it's a super red district with very low standards. She won in 2024 with 64.4% of the vote. That's a very strong win. However, Trump carried some of those counties with more than 70% or more than 80% of the vote. So when you look at it, 64.4%, that's a dominant win. But she already has a tax, a crazy tax, an ignorance tax, an offensive, whatever you want to call it, of like 6 to 16% that she loses off of Donald Trump, which might remind you, if you've been following our coverage of this, when you compare Brian Kemp versus her running in the same race, it cost the Republican Party about 20 points. So now we have 2 data points that Marjorie Greene is like 10 to 20 points worse than any other Republican.
You know, at the end of the day, Marjorie Taylor Greene is safe in her district, at least for now, but she's in the House. So far fewer people are actually showing up to the polls to vote for her. But of course, when it comes to the senators of the state, the whole state is voting for that. Everybody who shows up to the polls, no matter what municipality, no matter what county they're in within that state, they're voting for senators. So Marjorie Taylor Greene's brand is just too toxic and too ridiculous for people at large to want her in the Senate. She's, well, first and foremost, I was about to say she's okay and perfect right where she is, but no, she shouldn't be where she is in the first place. Nonetheless, she's a member of the House. But we definitely shouldn't be elevating someone like that to the Senate because she's nuts. Like that woman is completely out of her mind. She's a true believer. You never know what's up with her other than she's a troll. She's a professional troll and she's made her way into the House. And just like we got a professional troll who's running the whole country right now, who's been elected twice. So, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I honestly kind of would like to see her run for Senate because at this point, why not? You know, we'll be able to make great content out of it. We'll be able to laugh, point, and be because, you know, it's unlikely that she would win. But it is sad in general that this is a state that we find ourselves in America.